Hallelujah, hallelujah, hallelujah. All praises to the Most High Yah, who is and was and is to come, the King of the earth, governor and ruler of all. He alone is worthy to be praised and adored. He is our strength. He is our deliverer. He's our peace. He is our all in all. And I do hope I'm saying our. So I hope He is all those things to you as well. I do pray that you are still trusting in Yah, the Elohim of your salvation, regardless of what is going on. And there has been a lot of sadness in the news with the mass killings from the U.S. and even right here. So there's a lot of things going around all over. But I want to encourage you to continue to trust only in Yah. And as I've been saying to you, if you are going to praise anyone, if you're going to big up anyone, if you are going to brag on anyone, let it be Yah. Listen, it can only be Yah. Because He truly, Him alone is worthy to be praised. Hallelujah. From the rising of the sun to the going down of the same, the name of Yah is worthy to be praised. Hallelujah, hallelujah. I want to speak to you on something that's been on my mind for quite a bit. And I want to share my thoughts with you on generational curses. Generational curses. Okay, so we're going to start with Proverbs 22, verse 6. Train up, initiate, or discipline a child in the way, the road, course of life journey he should go. And when he is old, he will not depart from it. Okay. The family is said to be the bedrock of society. There's a saying, as goes the family, so go the society. What we have been experiencing in our society now for a while, there are many social ills such as violent crime, domestic abuse, rape, child molestation, stealing, murders, are, in my opinion, can be attributed to a history of family relationship issues or the result of a breakdown in the family structure, which is now spilling out into our society. Rapers, murderers, child molesters, pedophiles, thieves, and all others are not born. They're not born, but created in the home family environment. Whenever a criminal is interviewed, many times it is revealed that there was some childhood trauma. In Christianity, we were always praying against generational curses or breaking generational curses in the spiritual realm. But I've come to realize to break a generational curse requires more than just praying and binding in the spirit. Breaking generational curses require acknowledging the acknowledgement or the identifying of the curse and taking physical action, intentional action to put an end to the curse. We all see curses in our family line. We see the repeated behavior patterns. We speak of them very casually. We say, and it's often said, oh, that runs in the family. And preparing this, I've had people close to me mention generational curse just in talking. And it's very casual. But what are we doing about it? Hosea 4:6 says, my people are destroyed for the lack of knowledge. Because you have rejected knowledge, I will also reject you. That you will be no priest to me, seeing you have forgotten the Torah of your Elohim. I will also forget your children. I've heard someone give a definition of knowledge, and they said that knowledge means to act upon what you know. There are some incidents where people just do not know or were not given the correct information. However, some of us know. We have the correct information and understanding, but we are not acting upon what we know. We are not applying the information to our daily lives. We are not sharing what we know with our families. We are talking, but we're not walking. We can teach it, preach it, prophesy it, talk about a lifestyle, but we are not living it. We can identify how it should look, a lifestyle, the lifestyle, but we are not living it. The true application of knowledge, or the true demonstration of one having knowledge, is being able to apply it to your life, to our life, and live it, living it. So what are generational curses? According to Google, a generational curse is a habit or behavior that has been passed from one generation to the next. It runs in the family, they say. These habits and behaviors are rooted, and we look at them, in sin, which is the transgressing of Yah's law or his instructions. Generational curses are also known as a family curse, an ancestral curse, or a hereditary curse. Generational curses are not limited to any nation, race, class, or social status. As long as you are connected to a family lineage, there is a great chance you are part of a generational curse. So I want to briefly talk about a few issues that we identify as a generational curse or generational curses. Or what we would say, or you can see a pattern in these areas of our lives. But the main focus is on practical solutions to break or put an end to these curses. And the first one, most important one, is the relationship between a man and a woman. Because a family is the foundation. And so that's where it starts. And unless we get the family structure right, we are going to continue having what we've been having. It starts with the family. Growing up, we were referred to as Carrie's race by the, who's who in the community. And there was a warning not to get involved with us. I remember the gentleman saying, that's Carrie's race, fool with them. I was very young. Be careful. I was told that Carrie was very beautiful. She was my great-grandmother who had 5 children for 5 different men. And looking at my grandmother, I'm saying this, but now today it's very common. And looking at my grandmother and her sibling, and my grandmother and her siblings on her dad's side, I don't think her dad was really her dad. And this was me observing this as a child. I was like, something ain't right. My grandmother was what they call high yellow, with a lot of thick, dark hair. And I remember her aunt, our sister, we call Aunt Mary. Aunt Mary was dark. Now they were supposed to have the same daddy. Dark. With what we call nappy head. And just very, very, They looked very different. No similarities. But Mama, that was her sister. You could tell they couldn't see the difference. But when I met Aunt Mary and I looked at my grandmother, I was like, hold up. But anyway. Okay. So in my family line, on my mother's side, we have a history of poor relationships, adultery, children outside of wedlock, divorce. Now that's in many families, but I'm talking about mine. My mom and dad were absolutely divorced when I was 14. My ex-husband and I were absolutely divorced when my daughter was 14. And when I saw that, I was like, wow, the exact age. The exact age. When I married, it was not for it to end in divorce. And I don't think anyone plans for their marriage to end in a divorce. But I thought I was doing it right because I saw the curse, the pattern of having children out of wedlock before you got married, and I decided that was going to end with me. And so I wanted to give my children what I didn't experience. I wanted them to grow up in a home with a mother and a dad because I didn't have that. However, there were very important information I needed in order to make a good decision and a choice of husband that was not passed on to me prior to getting married. I said I do, like many of us, and I had no clue what the man I was entering a marriage with was supposed to do for me. I knew fully what I was supposed to do for him, but I didn't know what he was supposed to do for me. And we know the emphasis in Christianity and many religions is always on what a woman is to do for a man. But there is no constant trumpeting of what a man is to do for his woman. We're falling down in that area. You don't hear sermons about how a man or the role of a man or the responsibility of a man to a woman. And my mother told us that, one, a stiff cock don't have no conscience. This was her message on relationship to us, buddy. A stiff cock don't have no conscience. A man do not want you for only your front, but he want to come home to clean house and cook food. She said, do not depend on no man. Work and have your own things. And four, if a woman does not take care of her children, she's an unfit mother. See? The responsibility is put on the woman. There was no mention ever of what a man was to do for you. I was not told that a man commits, and that is what distinguishes a man from a male. The first thing Adam did when he saw Eve was commit to her. I was not told that my man was supposed to love me. I remember Mama saying, marry the man who love you and not who you love. But she did not emphasize or explain that it is the duty and responsibility of a man to love his woman, and that a woman ought to respect a man. I was not told that it was very important for me to marry the man who loved me, because his love for me was to cover me. His love for me protects me. His love for me provides for me. His love for me wants to know that I am safe and secure mentally, spiritually, emotionally, and physically. See, his love for me will not bring me any harm. I was not told that the marriage that I was entering in was actually a covenant. I was not told the importance of my virginity to that marriage covenant. I was not told that my husband was the one who was supposed to break the hymen of my womanhood, and the blood that was shed was the binding of that covenant between him and me. This information is very important for us to know prior to marriage. We need to tell our young daughters the importance of virginity. And we are entering into a covenant without the very important details. We are entering in the most important covenant. Because it represents the family structure, the order that the Most High established. And we are not getting sufficient details, information. We don't have the information to say we have the knowledge to apply it so that we can walk in it. As a result, we are seeing the same results in marriages. A lot of insanity going on. We're doing the same things, same pattern, but we are expecting a different result, or maybe we're not. We just probably have it that's just how marriages are. Eventually they should end in a divorce, or eventually you're going to separate, eventually this is what's going to happen. But it's not what the Father intended. So we are seeing the same results in marriage because we're doing the same thing. And the results are breakdown in the family, hostile relationships, unhappy, unfulfilled homes, confused and displaced children, marriages ended in divorce or just separating. I grew up in a community where you only know 2 people were married when you read the obituary. And you'd be like, they were married? Living in the same community for years. Each person then probably involved with someone else, but they're married. In order to break the generational curses we have been experiencing in our marriage relationships, we have to break the silence. And that is what I believe is very important to break in the generational curse. To break the cycle, we have to break the silence. We have to tell the next generation the whole truth about marriage. Everything that I shared earlier is what we need to say to our people. What is the marriage all about? What it truly represents. It's not just you having a big party, everybody dressing up. You understand me? It ain't about you just being with someone that you can sleep with without saying you fornicating or committing whoredom. You understand me? The covenant represents that structure, that family structure, that circle that a child is supposed to grow up in, that a child is supposed to be nurtured in. You understand me? So that they can grow up into whole, productive adults. It's a circle, and in the middle of that circle is supposed to be a child, protected, loved, nurtured. So now I'm telling my daughter and son what their duties and responsibilities are in marriage. I'm telling them what their spouse is to be to them and what they are to be to their spouse. I'm telling my daughter to marry the man who has demonstrated his love for her, and my son to marry the woman he loves. I told my daughter, no man is coming here with just a Bible and an erection. I want to see productivity. I want to see his vision, his productivity, his vision. See it. I don't want you to read it on a piece of paper. I want to see it. Adam was already working in his purpose when he got Eve. So I want to see it. I want to see what you're doing. You in it. You understand? They say sometimes we just marry man with dreams. And you could talk about a dream and this is what I want to do and this and that and that. What's stopping you from actually doing it? You should be doing it and doing it well and already established when you could come now and say you want to take and enter in a covenant with a woman. You know, it's important that the man be in his vision, in his order, establish himself. That's what determines a man from a male. You understand me? I married a man I thought was different from my dad. I thought I was doing it different. My dad was an alcoholic. He did drugs. He was a womanizer, loved younger females. I heard that he beat my mom, took all his resources and gave to strange, stray females, and did not take care of his family, at least didn't take care of my side of family, that he had with my mother. So I married my husband, who was a good Christian. Did not drink, smoke, womanize, had a stable job. Everyone spoke very highly of him. So what was the problem? But he did not love. So he couldn't cover, protect, or feel the need to provide. So even though on the outward, doing certain stuff, the mentality of him and my dad, or the information they had, was basically the same, or didn't have. They didn't know what they were supposed to do in a family. You understand? So what was the problem? Information. My husband was told what I was supposed to do for him as a man, but no one ever told him, and I guess no one ever told my dad what he was to do for his woman, or how he was to perform with his family, or even the position he should be in before he took a family. And that was my ex-husband's words. He said no one ever told him how to be a husband. And I can understand that, because in our twisted society, the emphasis is on the duty and responsibility of the woman to the man, but not the man to the woman. And I pray that someone begin to teach our men what it means to be, our males, what it means to be a man. You see, some man need to start teaching that. Let's start harping on that. That is what needs to be taught. Because you have women who know what they're supposed to do, but we ended up with men who don't have a clue. Do you understand? And these people come and talk about what you bring into the table. But I can deal with that in another video. Because I think that is so... But still, they say the man is the head, and he is, according to the Hebraic text. But a head without the information, the knowledge of his responsibility, is the reason many of our homes are in the chaotic situation they are in. So those of us who now have the information, have to begin to share it with the younger generations, so that we can break the cycle of generational curses in our family. We can break the cycle of these broken marriages, broken homes. You understand me? Which are producing confused and misplaced children. You understand me? Who don't know who they are. Because so many times the mommy and the daddy spend fighting and fussing, and all we doing is feeding the children and putting clothes on them, but we are not paying attention to their intellectual, their spiritual, their emotional needs. So we leave them open for all kinds of ills, to be victim, because there's no protection. So when we break the cycle of generational curses in our family line, by doing so, we will strengthen and improve and change the directory of our people, our nation, of our society. It has to start with the family. Okay, the other one is generational curses of sexual abuse and incest. And I encourage you to read Leviticus 18 and 20. It shows the laws against sexual deviant behaviors. Okay, all written in Leviticus 18 and 20. A lot of the issues we have as grown-ups, and we see the result of broken relationships. You understand me? And it shows up in as a result of the broken relationship. It exposes the child to sexual abuse and incest. Again, because there's no protection. A lot of the issues we have as grown-ups stems from the sexual abuse and incestuous relationships we have experienced as children, and just abuse in the whole. You understand me? Because of what would have been experienced in that family. Talking about now the facts of it on the child. Many times children encounter these unfortunate life-altering situations due to the broken family structure. Many times the individual inflicting the unlawful sexual act on a child were themselves a victim of the same sex act when they were children, and most times statistics says they are family members. In our nation, and I am sure it occurs in other nations, but I can only speak for what I've experienced, the generational curse of child molestation and incest is a cancerous sore. Very prevalent. Very, very widespread. There have been a proliferation of reported cases here in the last few years. And what is so sad and troubling is that when you hear stories told by the victims, they would say that they told their mother. And often it's always the mother that they tell that what a male relative was doing to her. And we have most cases coming from females, but there are males who have experienced sexual abuse as a child, but we don't get to hear their stories because of the stigma attached to a man being vulnerable. You understand? So we have a lot of men who would experience sexual abuse as a child, but they ain't telling nobody. You understand me? And they keep that inside. And it's not good. But those females would say they told their mom what had happened at the time the act was occurring and was not believed. And we have heard that. They were blamed, or they were saying, you understand me, because mommy in love sometime with the perpetrator. I read a story of a sister who said that when she told her mother what a male relative was doing to her, the mother told her, she went through that too. Leave it alone. You'll get over that. I read that. I think last year. And we've had many stories where sisters would say they told their mother that her boyfriend was sleeping with them. And in many instances, the mother get mad with the child, the daughter. And, it became a contention between them. I was just told recently of a man who was involved with the mother. And in that relationship, he started sleeping with the daughter. And now he is actually with the daughter and have children, but he left the mother. But now he's with the daughter and have children with the daughter. Okay? So the sad thing is the psychological effects of child sexual abuse or any other childhood abuse does not just go away. And this is what is so damaging to a lot of our males, because they would have experienced this. And then this environment where you're supposed to be macho, they're not talking about it. So it's in their psyche. It's in their psyche. Because it doesn't go away just like that. It is with you basically for the rest of your life. That trauma. It is not something you outgrows. If the child does not get counseling early to deal with the trauma, it can stay in the psyche and develop into anger, self-hate, rage, sexual deviant behavior, social ills, and mental and emotional abuse issues. Especially it can develop into what I mentioned, violence, and it's demonstrated in violence. And this can explain why we may experience so much this violence that comes from our young men and the mental illness that is being displayed. But they ain't never share their story because the one never, the environment to share the story. You understand me? And so as a result, what they would have experienced, this is now how it is spilling out into society. Because you can release it some kind of how. It can come out. All of which can be passed on to the next generation, and that's what's happening, passing along. Because when you have a broken man go and have a child, that brokenness, you understand me? Because, it's easy for a man and a woman to come together and produce a seed. You understand? But that child is not able to get what they need. And so we have that habit, that behavior continues because now that is passed on to the child. The generational curse is passed on based on because that dad experienced a situation when he was small that he can't tell nobody. You understand me? And so he's not able to be there to give a child what it needs because he himself is fragmented, broken. You understand? So we are seeing this domino effect, passing it on. Just passing along. We have to deal with these things. We have to deal with it. We have to recognize it, and we have to create an environment where men can be humans. They can show their emotions. Let's start with our young boys. I have that written down to talk about that too, so let me just continue. So we got to talk about it. Early this year, I had a lot of YouTube recommendation of videos depicting sisters who were incarcerated for killing their children. And one of the stories that really stood out to me, because I watch them, I was like, Father, why watching these things? But I watched it, and one of the stories that stood out to me was extremely troubling. That was extremely troubling was the story of a mother of 4. All of the children had different dads. She killed 2 of them, a 9-year-old boy and a 13-year-old girl, and had them in a deep freeze in her house for 2 years before anyone found out. 2 years. She and the other 2 children were living in the home as if nothing had happened. Why did she kill them? She killed them because one day the youngest child, who was about 4, told her that his siblings, this 9 and 13-year-old, were performing some sexual acts on him. This triggered the mother's memory of her experience of sexual abuse at the hand of a relative. She said that when she told her mother, the mother did nothing. The abuse continued for her. She's explained how she went to another family and whatever the case may be, and it continued. No one did anything. This was an angry woman. So when her son told her, she went into a rage and killed the 13-year-old. I don't remember exactly what she did, but she killed her swiftly. But she described how she tied up the 9-year-old and tortured him for days before he died. Oh my goodness. You can imagine a 9-year-old child being tortured by his mother. You understand me? Before he died. She kept saying how she told her mother in the interview. She kept saying how she told her mother, I told my mother. And it's like mental illness, but she didn't believe me. She didn't do anything. But to her, she was not going to be her mother. So she did something. And what she did was kill the 2 children who performed these sexual acts on her 4-year-old, their sibling. You understand me? That's how she dealt with it, because that's what she was. She was broken. Never got healing because no one never acknowledged or said, identified her. She was, or was held accountable for what was done to her. And all those years, she kept that inside of her. And when it came out, her 2 children was murdered. She murdered them at her hand. You understand? And she said she would do it again. If she had to do it again, she would kill them again. All of this was in an interview she did. This mother showed absolutely no remorse for what she did. Nothing. Even when she was speaking, her face, she was just angry. She blamed the children, daddies who wasn't there helping her to raise these children. And this story was very sad and troubling on so many levels, because it shows the breakdown in the family. 2 years, and no one realized these children were missing. The school, where was the school, and where was the dad, and her family. 2 years, and I forget how. I think the police had to go to the home for some situation, and she was not there. And in searching the home, they found the children in the deep freeze. That's how they found out, 2 years later. 2 years, no one realized the children were missing. Sexual abuse victims can be perpetrators of other crimes. The psychological effects of the child abuse does not go anywhere if it is not dealt with. You understand me? So what happened to her shows that because she was a sexual abuse victim, and because of the abuse she experienced, she is now a perpetrator of crimes, murder. You understand me? So it's like a deterioration that happens. Because, as I said, the psychological effects of child abuse does not go anywhere if it is not dealt with. You understand me? You don't forget it. But if you're able to talk through it or talk about it, and if someone acknowledges it and you can express that anger, you learn how to deal with it. You understand me? Some healing needs to take place. And it starts with allowing the child to say, that's what happened, and believe in them. To break the cycle of sexual abuse, we have to break the silence. To break the cycle of sexual abuse, we have to break the silence. We have to break the silence, and we have to, as parents, do a better job of protecting our children. Protecting our children. That was one of the things that I focused on with my 2 children, because I knew what happened to me as a child. And people used to say to me, oh, trust somebody with your children. I'm like, to myself, I trust nobody with my children, because it was family members and people I knew, people in the community, who did it to me. You understand? So I wasn't trusting nobody with my children. And that's why I took the position I did with my children. I kept them with me. I tell my ex-husband, I don't know your sister boyfriends, so my children ain't sleeping in nobody's house. You understand? It wasn't even up for discussion. Don't even ask. Wherever they went, I was there because I had to watch over them. I want to see who handling my children, who doing what. Because I knew, so I was guarding over their innocence. That was not passing on to them. What happened to me was not going to pass on to my 2 children. And I thank the Most High, up to the day, I can say that they have not experienced any form of sexual abuse. When my daughter was 2 years old, from she come out, I was telling her, no one is to touch your vagina. I remember when she was about two, one day her dad came home and she was in the bathtub and playing with her, toys in a bubble bath. And I was sitting in the room, just sitting down, waiting for her, giving her time so I could obey her. And he came home and he walked straight in the bathroom. And as he stepped into the bathroom, I heard my 2-year-old say to him, my mommy say, no one is to touch my vagina. And I sit in the room and I say, wow. I was like, and she said it just like that. And he just back out of the bathroom and looked in the room at me. He said, what did you tell her? And I said, exactly what she just told you. I was shocked. But at 2 years old, she could repeat to him what I was saying to her. Because I kept telling her, no one is to touch your vagina. And every time I'm telling her that, I'm changing. I said, you hear me? And I told she was listening. So if you start telling your children, if you start telling them, that's why I said break the silence. Start telling their children about their body parts very young. And giving them the tool to let them know that it's important that no one touch. And if someone trying to touch you, you come and tell mommy. And I told her that. I said, you tell me. And your mommy can deal with them. And as she got older, she used to laugh. She said, mommy, what you can do? I said, listen, you tell your mommy. Your mommy can deal with them. So I let her know. You understand me? Nothing wrong you do. It's nothing because of anything. You understand me? And that's what you need to do with your children. We are aware of what's happening. But sometimes we want to act as if, oh, yeah, I know. You understand? Listen, to break the cycle of child abuse, we have to break the silence. We know what's going on. Sisters and brothers have to tell their stories. We have to expose it in the family in order to protect the next generation. Mommy knows her uncle molested her. So why mommy think that it's okay and safe for her uncle to be around her daughter? You understand me? We have to be proactive. Your uncle ain't never acknowledged what he did to you or your brother. So why you think now that you have your little daughter, your sick uncle, your sick brother, your cousin, whoever is not going to now be looking at your child with the same eyes? Come on now. You understand? We have to be proactive. Prevention is better than cure. Break the silence. To break the cycle, we need to break the silence. Generational curse of violence. The effects of child sexual abuse, as I've already said, child molestation is far-reaching. Violence is a learned behavior, just like any other habit. If a child grows up experiencing violence in a home and is left to believe the action is normal and acceptable, the child will carry that over into their family life. And like I said earlier, we experience that. So children who were sexually abused, sometimes they become violent. Okay? It is sad that if a girl watches her mother be physically abused, there's a great chance, and the mother stay in that environment, there's a great chance she will marry a male who will also physically abuse her. It has to be spoken that the behavior is not normal and it's not acceptable. And I encourage sisters to leave. Sisters, not because you experience a male beating you means your daughter or another young sister have to have the same experience. Sis, you need to teach your son that is wrong. You understand me? And not because his daddy beat you, you have the mindset that it's okay for him to beat his daughter. And you hear things like this. You understand me? And you have the bitter sister who used to get beaten. Her thing is, my child, I used to go through it. I experienced it. You understand me? You teach your son that it is wrong, that he should not do it. His dad was wrong for hitting you, and it is totally unacceptable for him to hit his woman. Sis, you have to tell your son early. Just like I was telling my daughter, no one is to touch you. You tell your son early that what the actions that he's seeing of his dad towards you were wrong, and he should not repeat it. I have heard mature sisters say, well, I experienced it. I've been through it, as if it's okay. Sis, you bitter and you need to heal. You understand? Nothing is more troubling to me than to hear sisters talk about a man hitting them and then say how much they love him. How can you love a man who physically abused you, mentally, emotionally? Because you were wounded. I heard that my dad beat my mother. I heard it because at the time that I came along, they were not together, so I didn't experience it. I didn't grow up in the house with him at all. But when I heard it as a child, it didn't make sense to me that a man, when they say a man beat a woman, see, I identified with my mother beating me. But in my head, my mother is grown. I was the child. So I understood a parent beating a child. But it didn't resonate in my mind that a man could beat a woman. I didn't understand. It still don't resonate with me. So I decided that it wouldn't be me. I decided that we may fight, but you will not, quote unquote, beat me. This was me coming up. I'm like, that don't make no sense. You beat, if you want to beat, you beat a child. That was my approach. No. Me? No. So I was always on the defense. I say now to sisters who are in love with their abusers, ain't no dick that good. I don't love that deep. Love begins with self. We have to teach this to our young daughters. We cannot continue to perpetrate the lie that if a male is beating you, he loves you. And if he does not beat you, he doesn't love you. I grew up hearing that. People actually said that. And it didn't make sense to me. So my thing was, that's love? To break the curse of violence in family and relationship, we have to break the silence. Talk to our boys and girls. Inform them of what happened in the family. Tell them your story, mother. And I'm encouraging men to tell their stories. What happened in the family in the past so that they will know what to avoid in the future. You see? They would know, okay, well, I ain't getting in that. You see what I'm saying? My mommy went through that ain't me. That's the approach they'll take. My daddy experienced that, I ain't going that way. But we leaving the children no information. You understand? We already know what is out there. But they don't have the information to see that this thing can occur in your family, and this is what you need to avoid. You see what I'm saying? Generational curse of sickness. In the Christian church, the prayer line is filled with people requesting prayers for generational diseases they got from eating the same unclean animals and practicing the same unhealthy eating habits of their ancestors. My mother's family medical history is blood pressure. My mother's my grandmother had a bag of pills which she took religiously. Mama had her pills. She knew what each one was for. She was especially concerned if she did not have her pressure pills. I now smile at my sisters' talk about their quote-unquote pressure pills. I do not know much about my dad's side of the family, but one thing I do know is his mother, my grandmother, was a diabetic, and all of his sisters were diabetic, and he later in life developed diabetes. As a child, they questioned whether I was his child. So for me, it was disturbing in my first pregnancy when I was diagnosed with gestational diabetes. And the doctor told me it was a window into my future. He said, now you see what you're up against, because gestational diabetes, it is just in the pregnancy, and normally after the pregnancy, it goes away. So I decided right there and then, not me. I was like, how dare you? You all don't think I eat child, but this thing won't show up in me? I said, We can spend all our time at the prayer altars, sowing seed on the sowing seed line to break the generational curse of the diseases. We praying against diseases such as diabetes, high blood pressure, and other illnesses that are the effects, direct result of a poor diet. But if we do not change the way we eat, see, that's the problem. We teach our children how to eat. They can have what we have because they're eating like us. So if we don't stop eating unclean animals, which goes against the dietary law given in Leviticus 11, we will continue to experience the curses of those diseases. You eat like your ancestors, you're going to have the diseases of your ancestors. Praying is good, but not effective if you do not cut out excessive meat, sugar, salt, white bread, white rice, shellfish, etc., all the unclean animals, and begin eating more fruits and vegetables along with exercise. To break the generational curses of diseases, you will have to eat different from the way your ancestors before you did. You can't eat the same way mama them eat all kind of pig and what they ate. Boy, I have an aunt who used to make tripe. That's the gut. We used to go down to the sea and we had to clean, and she made the best tripe sauce. You understand? So if you eat like that, you can have what they have. You see? And all praises to the Most High. I am at step 47, don't have blood pressure or diabetes. I did not only pray against disease, you see, I cancel it. I declared, not me. You see, that it would not go to me or my descendants. But I changed my eating habits many years ago. So my children eat the way I eat. They eat from the earth. I follow the dietary laws of the scriptures. To break the generational curse, the cycle of generational diseases, we have to break the silence and teach our children how to eat according to the instructions of Yah. Generational curses of poverty. Mama used to say every generation is wiser but weaker. I'm not sure about that, about the wiser part, because we are still educating our children, paying tons in school fees and college tuition so that our children can be overqualified employees, graduating from college to go in the job market to compete for a position in someone else's company. Many parents go into deep debt getting college loans. Many students graduate with student loan debt. I saw a report a few years ago of a woman in her 80s who was still paying her student loans. I think it's ridiculous. I wanted to have my own business from a little girl. My passion was hair. I had a vision for a woman's center, a place where females could come and get anything done in the line of hair care. My mother told me I was not going to be no hairdresser. She said, you see anyone doing any hair? At that time, there was only one beautician in the community. And every time you went there, we had to kneel on the side of her bathtub to shampoo our hair. My mother was not having it. That was my mother at that time, image of beauty salon, kneeling down to top, washing hair. No, she couldn't see further than that experience. You see? She said, you go into college to teach. I didn't want to teach. But my mother was determined, and she said, I want you to have a job. I want to know when you grow up, you could have a job and you could take care of yourself. So, and my mother's mindset, working for yourself was not, you won't be able to take care of yourself. But my mindset was, everything I did, I would turn it into a business. So I've tried several business adventures. But I told my children from they came out of my womb that they would be employers, that they can have their own businesses. I told them they can go to college if they choose, but whatever they study, they had better turn it into a business. My daughter demonstrated great entrepreneurial skills from about 6. I baked chocolate cookies for her to take as snacks. Her friends loved the cookies, chocolate chip cookies. I told her she can take one for a friend. She said, no, this is me, 6-year-old. She told me I can sell them, the cookies. I said, no. So I baked the cookies and she took them to school and sold 3 for $1. That was her first little business. She later came up with other ideas to make things to sell to her friends at school. You understand me? And my daughter just got her first business license for her natural hair skin products. We're breaking the curse, generational curse of poverty. So you ain't gonna get wealth working for somebody else. You can get wealth working for yourself. This is what we gotta teach our children. We sending these children off to school to become highly qualified employees. I got a problem with that. You understand? One thing my mother taught us was not to borrow but to save, and that's what I do. This is something I pass on to my children. I've taught my children not to give their money to rich people by buying clothes and things because it is in style. This is what many have done. Encourage their children to spend money on name brand clothes, shoes, phone, etc., but not saving and investing. We need to encourage our children to learn trades and work for themselves. I told my son before he goes to any any college, he was going to a trade school and to learn a skill. A man should have a skill. You need to work with your hand. You understand me? I did before I went to college. I went and I learned to sew. So I am a seamstress by trade. I don't sew for people though. But I can sew if I need to. And see this chair that I'm sitting in? I did this myself. So I do things for myself. And I rented up also. He was charging me $400 to cover 10 cushions. And then he told me to buy 12 yards of material. When I went to buy the material, the woman said to me, "You can sew?" I said, "Yes." She said, "Do it yourself." And that's what I did. And I didn't need 12 yards. I only used 7. So when you have a trade, you can do some things for yourself. You don't got to be paying no money. People stealing from you. You understand? We have to ensure, we have passed on the generational curse of poverty instead of generational wealth because we encourage our children to buy expensive cars instead of land. We have to ensure that our children learn different skills so that they can work for themselves and pass these skills on to their children. Every time I go and pay rent for the company I work for, the Chinese man son is in the store with him. And I often think to myself, this is what the other nations have done to pass on generational wealth. They pass on their trade to their children. They give their children inheritance of land, or they help them start businesses. I have heard many of our societies, of our people say how their family have generational land, but it's just sitting there. Why? For what? Our people have passed on the generational curse of poverty instead of generational wealth. Proverbs said a good man leaves an inheritance for his children's children. A good man. We have to break the generational curse of poverty by talking to our young about the importance of saving, investing, and learning a trade, being self-employed, having businesses. If there's a generational land, give it to your children. You understand me? And so that they can build instead of paying rent. There is a saying that I believe is so very true. Children learn what they live. We are all products of our environment. We are creatures of habit. Talk to your children about your experiences, the mistakes you have made in an effort to show them the better way. Teach your children how to communicate and respect each other. When they are having sibling disputes, do not tell them to shut up in here. Bring them together. Let them sit and give each of them an opportunity to voice their grievances with the other. And you instruct them on how they should handle a disagreement with each other. Do not allow your children to grow up with bitterness against each other. And do not take sides. Be fair and just. Teach them to apologize when they say anything that offends the other. I saw a meme that says, "You want to break a generational curse. Give your children the right to tell you when something you are doing is hurting them without being defensive and dismissive." I want to encourage you to be a cycle breaker. According to Google, a cycle breaker is someone in the family who, one, starts the healing in the family, 2, recognize dysfunctional behavior in themselves and changes it, 3, takes time to truly understand why the people in their family are the way they are, 4, recognizes coping mechanisms that are no longer helpful, 5, doesn't seem to fit in with the family, 6, it is ready to show themselves outside of the family system. Is ready to know themselves outside of the family system. 7, recognizes unhealthy family patterns and chooses not to repeat them. Are you a cycle breaker? Many years ago, the Ruach HaKodesh, the Holy Spirit, told me that Satan uses one generation to destroy the other. The choices that parents make are not about them, but about their children. But many parents do not realize that. So when parents are carrying on living chaotic lives and making poor relationship choices, poor financial choices, poor eating habit choices, poor spiritual choices. They are passing that poor choice and the facts of the poor choices onto their children, the next generation. As a result, we have generational curses. We have to realize this and make choices that we can break the curses and change the directory and legacy of our family line. We have to want better for ourselves and our children. The decision Eve made to eat the fruit of the knowledge of good and evil has affected the whole world. As a result, we are born in sin. And although Eve ate the fruit of the knowledge of good and evil, we seem only to know how to pass the evil to our generations. We need to start passing on the good. We have to break the curses, and in order to do that, I firmly believe that we have to break the silence. Generational curses are broken through speaking, talking. Talk to your children. Tell the next generation the family's history, mistakes, accomplishment, good and bad choices. Talk. Expose the family secrets. If you are a cycle breaker, you have the mandate to break the cycle of generational curses in your family lineage by breaking the silence. People say it runs in the family. As a cycle breaker, you decide that the run stops with you. You decide that it ends with you. I hope this encouraged you. I hope you get something from it. We have to break the generational curses. So to break the cycle, we have to break the silence. Shalom.